Embrace the sphere.
Embrace the sphere. Folks, welcome to Werewolf Radar, the world's premier paranormal preparedness podcast. My name is allegedly Jordan Dahl.
And mine is apparently Nate Balding.
I am apparently Roger Norquist.
Today's episode of Werewolf Radar is brought to you by the Monstruco Flavor Tablet. You've heard of salt, you've heard of pepper, now hear of this. This 6-inch piece of marbled quartzite inscribed with inscrutable runes was found in an ancient Roman mess hall, and when touched to your favorite food, renders it instantly delicious. And it really, really works. Monstruco Flavor Tablet. Do not touch.
How to use?
You use some pliers or something.
Tongs.
Even a glove is fine. It's just, if you touch it,
with your bare hand.
You're delicious.
Yeah, it's tongue only.
You're not delicious. If you touch it with your bare hand or any other part of your body, the stone itself, you can eat the food.
Sure.
If you touch the stone, you will become delicious. Happened to a friend of mine.
Yeah, he's been eating, and people fucking loved it.
He was at a Knicks game, and he got some of the nachos, and the nachos weren't very good, and so he was going to touch them with this, and it slipped, and he reached out and caught it with his other hand.
Yep.
And they fucking skeletonized his ass, dude.
Oof.
And then they ate the bones.
What?
There was nothing left. They ate a lot of him too.
They also weren't even playing at the time. They were just there in the stands.
They came to watch the Washington Generals play an away game against the Celtics, weirdly.
They play more than just the Globetrotters.
They're fucking great. They dominate everyone else. But the Punchinello antics of
how do you beat a team with a ladder? They're using the ladder.
Look,
surely that's against the rules.
You can't call yourselves the Knickerbockers and not expect to play an old-timey team.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's another thing. The Knicks should be a lot more old-timey than they're letting on. They should really be twirling canes when they come out onto the court.
They should have the most pantaloons out of anybody in the NBA.
I'm just around from old New Amsterdam town.
So what you're asking is that all NBA teams come out with a prop or motif in their costume like their mascot.
Yeah.
Roger, that would cause me to become a basketball fan overnight.
Fair enough.
I wouldn't miss a fucking game. Oh, the Jazz? They gotta come out all big band and shit.
Dude, the Raptors would have to bring in.
They do a legitimate Jurassic Park, create a raptor from a chicken.
They got this.
Or it's just a guy who brings in like an eagle or something and has to explain how raptor is two things.
Yeah. And they're all dressed like the dinosaur, just further confusing things. Man, they got this shaved ostrich. It's fucking terrifying.
Oh, my chest. Anyway, Monstruco makes some delicious products. We're sorry for the lost soul.
Oh boy, yeah. It's right on the box. You're not supposed to touch it.
Yeah, it's his fault, especially at a Knicks game.
I'm gonna go ahead and take the skull.
Okay.
Oh, do it.
Also, we're in the bunker, everyone. We hope you like it.
How do you like this? This is our skeleton friend.
That is not the speaking skull. That is our skeleton friend we use as a secretary.
That's our skeleton producer, Glenn.
And Glenn, nice to see you once again.
With two N's.
Glenn Skellingstein.
We have Albert Brooks back here. We're gonna decorate this bunker properly as episodes go on.
Mm-hmm. I really do like that Glenn Skellingstein is now his name. Just gonna go ahead and put that into canon. Or should it be Shell Skellingstein? We'll go with Glenn. Glenn was first. Okay. I have been so eager to to once again take up the speaking skull because, as some of you may recall, the diehard Pingos, the one with Ping-O tattooed across their knuckles. It's Ping on one and then O on this finger.
Leaving you to write a 3-letter word on
you
the
put
other
whatever you
knuckles.
want. That's all for you. Last time I was talking about the mystery airships of the 1800s. We worked our way up to the airship wave of 1896-97, which is the one that initially captured my interest. And we were going to kind of follow this mystery airship across America. So for those of you who are just joining us, this is kind of what happened and why we're talking about this. In 1896, an airship, not unlike the one pictured behind me, this is before the Wright brothers have proven manned flight is possible. Perhaps somebody else did it somewhere before, but this is before the news broke, basically. People started seeing airships in the sky. They started seeing lights. They started seeing craft. They started seeing objects that they couldn't describe. Some of them were said to just straight up be hot air balloons, which we knew about. Hot air balloons and zeppelins, things of this nature, but none of them were cleared. None of them were like, nobody called the non-existent FCC or air traffic control or whatever and was like, hey, I'm going to be trying this out. There's no documented, is what I'm saying. No documents saying somebody was undertaking a flight at this time.
Yes.
So in California in 1896, the initial wave of airship sightings took place primarily in California from November 17th through December 1896. This is a ship took off from Sacramento, apparently. It was spotted in the sky over Sacramento. On November 17th, 1896, several citizens reported a strange flying light moving slowly across the sky at an estimated elevation of 1,000 feet. Some witnesses said they could discern a vague, dark shape behind the light. A witness named R.L. Lowry claimed he heard a voice from the craft, issuing commands to increase elevation in order to avoid hitting a church steeple. You might remember that afterwards.
It is a big thing with these airships. They seem to always be nearly crashing into church steeples.
Hey, they were figuring it out,
The church or the airship.
This was actually a brewery.
Yes, it was actually a brewery, which is apparently calling it a church steeple was like a goof from the newspaper editor himself.
Gotcha.
Lowry further described the craft as being powered by two men exerting themselves on bicycle pedals. Above the pedaling men seemed to be a passenger compartment which lay under the main body of the craft. A bright light was mounted on the front end. Some witnesses reported the sound of talking or singing as the light passed overhead. I love this dude, whoever he is. I mean, I'm sure he sucked. I'm sure he was the Elon Musk of his day.
How hard do you have to be going to lift an actual airship?
I imagine you would have to...
it's gotta be a lot, right?
I imagine you would have to have several men pedaling a very... specifically designed increasing sizes of gears to kind of get the most out of the leverage, and you swap out men as they get tired, but I mean, on first blush it seems impossible. You can't do that. You're not a bird, you have bones, you're a man. But maybe with some lighter than air gas, if you're just it doesn't seem like they were necessarily flapping mechanical wings to get this thing to take off. It seems more like it was a method of propulsion for a lighter than aircraft.
This was a
fan on the back or some shit.
What am I trying to say? A glorious time of unregulated chemistry and experimentation.
The sky was the Wild West.
Like the sky was the Wild West. This is the time Edison and shit was just throwing up mad shit to realize I'm gonna try 1,000 things before I find one that works. Yeah. Same thing with these guys. They were like, we just discovered hydrogen, how to make it, and how it can be put into a sock and, make an air balloon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Crazy time.
These are the physics of untended gods.
The November 19th, 1896 edition of the Stockton, California Daily Mail featured one of the earliest accounts of alleged alien craft sighting. Colonel H.G. Shaw claimed that while driving his buggy through the countryside of Lodi near Stockton, he came across what appeared to be a landed spacecraft. Shaw described it as having a metallic surface, which was completely featureless apart from a rudder and pointed ends. He estimated a diameter of 25 feet and said the vessel was around 150 feet in total length. 3 slender, 7-foot-tall, apparent extraterrestrials were said to approach from the craft while, quote, emitting a strange warbling noise. The beings examined Shaw's buggy and then tried to physically force him to accompany them back onto the ship. I say, unhand me, you Martian scoundrel. The aliens were said to give up after realizing they lacked the physical strength to force Shaw aboard. That's very funny.
Before we go too far, we need to remember that we need to do a segment on the failed abductions of ETs. The ones that are like, they try, but like their arms are too brittle.
My God, he's trying to lift me up by my shirt. He stretched the neck all out. I fell down on the ground and I broke my phone, and they just left.
They just left. They didn't even offer to replace the phone.
They boarded their ship, which lifted off the ground and sped out of sight. Shaw believed that the beings were Martians sent to kidnap an Earthling for unknowable but potentially nefarious purposes. This is amazing. This has been seen by some as an early attempt at alien abduction. It is possibly the first published account of explicitly extraterrestrial beings attempting to abduct humans and force them into their spacecraft.
All right, so
bonkers.
Point one that I have, there's no way that I can hear a story involving a guy driving a buggy that I don't think is just crazy fucking high.
Yeah, if you got a buggy, you got some J's in there.
And
even
I guess,
out on the dunes.
Yeah, he's on the beach, man.
Yeah.
And like point 1B, I think he just thought that these were people that, I don't know, maybe they were like stuck in the sand or something, and several women got out.
Yeah.
He thought they were 7 feet tall. And it was like,
Mamma mia.
I can't go with you.
Yeah. I'm married. Yeah.
To my buggy.
There was another sighting in 1896 over Sacramento that was somewhat interesting. A strange light appeared over Sacramento. Wait a minute. On the evening of November 21st, 1896, among observers were Sacramento's deputy sheriff, a district attorney. Witnesses described the light as being twice as bright as a typical arc light or locomotive headlamp. Later that same evening, the light was also seen over Folsom, San Francisco, Oakland, Petaluma, Santa Rosa, Sebastopol, Modesto, Manteca, and several other cities. Was reportedly viewed by thousands of witnesses.
That's quite a range.
That is I was going to say.
That's a little too far for one night, quite honestly.
Those cities aren't exactly the closest now.
Yeah. No.
The bright light reportedly frightened the sleeping seals as it flew over Cliff House and Seal Rocks.
Oh, my
causing
babies!
Them to frantically dive into the ocean.
Be free, my babies. Be safe under the waves.
On November 29th, 1896, over 100 residents of Tulare witnessed a spectacular sighting. They asserted they saw the now famous airship that has been wandering around in different sections of the state. It came down quite a distance, then went up and took a straight shot for Hanford. Red, white, and blue lights were seen in succession, but no part of the ship was seen. Many people watched it as long as it was in sight. So yeah, now we're getting into a more murky area where it's like, was this a ship that was capable of, faster than light travel? Was this a UFO? Or is this mass hysteria? What's happening? So as sightings and reports of mystery lights continued to increase throughout the state, Attorney Collins, his name is, give me a second, George D. Collins, came forward and told the newspapers that he had supposedly been contacted by a man seeking legal advice concerning, quote, the world's first practical airship.
Because all these other ones are crazy, man. They got nudes painted on the sides. There's like a beer tap in the cockpit. Like, it's just not practical for use. It's practical for partying.
A craft that he claimed was near completion at a secret location in nearby Oroville, California, about 60 miles from Sacramento. Collins stated that the lights over Sacramento must have been his client conducting nocturnal test flights. After Collins' announcement, rumors and wild tales began to spread, and for several weeks, the, quote, phantom airship was the biggest news story in Northern California. As sightings and reports of mystery lights continued to increase throughout the state, Attorney Collins found himself the center of so much attention and ridicule that he came to regret his earlier bragging. The San Francisco Chronicle nicknamed him Airship Collins. And after being hounded by reporters and harassed by cranks and curious busybodies, Collins recanted most of his claims and actually fled into hiding.
Oh, that's sad.
Collins had hinted that a local dentist, Dr. E.H. Benjamin, was the inventor of the airship. Dr. Benjamin admitted to newspapers that he was an inventor and Collins was his attorney, but disavowed any connection to the airship. Despite his denials, Dr. Benjamin continued to be badgered by the press and public, and like Collins, fled town and disappeared.
All because of an airship sighting. Just blew people's minds.
Well, that kind of sounds to me like somebody's protecting their friend, the Rocketeer.
Truly. So this is, as near as we can tell, kind of a timeline of the events that are now called the 1897 wave, from the Mystery Airship Wikipedia. The California airship of 1896 ended in December, but in February of 1897, reports of mysterious lights moving about the skies over western Nebraska marked the beginning of an even larger airship wave that would cover the greater part of the American Midwest. This second wave lasted through May 1897, with a few scattered reports of the airship in June. Hang on, I want to see. There is some more information about Dr. Benjamin.
All of these are so practical and fantastical.
Yeah.
That they're right on that edge of like, I guess very simply believability and the unbelievable.
Okay, well.
Because like even the thing behind me is practical. Like there's a man up here.
Yeah.
Like doing some of the rotations. You just fill this thing up with hydrogen and like you can do it, does all the work. You just now direct it.
Yeah. So it says around the time Collins began distancing himself from the airship, William Henry Harrison Hart, a former Attorney General of the United States of the state of California, came forth and said that he invented it. He stated that the airship's inventor had fired him for talking too much. Oh, no, wait. He fired Collins for talking too much. And the airship was likely going to be used to bomb Havana, Cuba. He also claimed that there were actually two airships, one built in California and the other in New Jersey. Hart named one of the inventors as Dr. Catlin and his assistant as Dr. Benjamin, the dentist who denied any connection to the airship. Like Collins, Hart later changed his stories and eventually stopped talking to newspapers about the airship. Exactly what true involvement Hart and Collins may have had is unknown. So back to the 1897 wave. February 2nd, 1897, the Omaha Bee reports a sighting over Hastings, Nebraska. Several Hastings people report that an airship or something of the kind has been sailing around the air west of this city. A close watch is being kept for its reappearance. It was sighted again a few days later, February 5th, south of Hastings. One witness from Arkansas, allegedly a former state of Senator Harris, was supposedly told by an airship pilot during tensions leading up to the Spanish-American War that the craft was bound for Cuba to use its Hotchkiss gun to kill Spaniards.
All right.
That would have been horrific at this time to have a fucking air force, unheard of at the time. You're preparing for them to come through the trees and then
they come down on you with a Hotchkiss gun, which is one of those kind of slender cannons with the big wheels on the side.
Ooh, that's too much.
In one account from Texas, 3 men reported an encounter with an airship and, quote, 5 peculiarly dressed men. That's a tough one. Peculiarly dressed men who asserted that they were descendants of the lost tribes of Israel and
We've been looking for them.
And had learned English from the 1553 North Pole expedition led by Hugh Willoughby.
Wait.
Yeah, you heard me.
So
that's what they said. That's what they said to the people. And then those people told the news. An article. Yeah, Roger, you had some questions about this one? I'll be happy to clear anything up.
I think we all need to know a lot more about everything that happened in that sentence.
I was very familiar because the Lost Tribes of Israel are I forgot the story truly, but they get spread and some cats get lost. Long story short, a few books shortened up for you.
I think some people will tell you they went to the center of the earth. I think some people will tell you that they are
Native Americans being them as one.
Some people will tell you that they are the Mormons, Rastafari, right. I've heard. So yeah, but apparently they're all wrong. And
these guys up here are.
An article in the Albion Weekly News from Albion, Nebraska reported that 2 witnesses saw an airship crash just inches from where they were standing. Inches? Guys.
Inches, yeah.
The airship suddenly disappeared with a man standing where the vessel had been. The airship pilot showed the men a small device that supposedly enabled him to shrink the airship small enough to store the vessel in his pocket. A rival newspaper, the Wilsonville Review, playfully claimed that its own editor was an additional witness to the incident and that he heard the pilot say, "Viver eft rof eberskbus." The phrase he allegedly heard is, "Subscribe to the Review," spelled backward.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
What?
Just the yellowest journalism.
Like and subscribe has never gone away.
Never gone away.
It was so here funny. For longer than you could possibly imagine.
Insane. The first airship sighting in Michigan was April 10th, 1897 at Alma, followed by sightings from Benton Harbor, Holland, Niles, and Mendon, all on April 11th. On April 12th, the airship was seen over Battle Creek in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and an airborne explosion was seen in Pavilion.
Explosion? That's coming closer to my theory. People playing with hydrogen.
Yeah, with alleged airship debris being found there and in nearby Comstock. The next night, a farmer living north of Battle Creek claimed that the airship came within 100 feet of a field or farm, and a wheel fell off the airship and was embedded in the ground. On April 10th, 1897, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch published a story reporting that one W.H. Hopkins encountered a grounded airship about 20 feet in length and 8 feet in diameter near the outskirts of Springfield, Mississippi. The vehicle was apparently propelled by 3 large propellers and crewed by a beautiful nude woman and a bearded man, also nude. Hopkins attempted with some difficulty to communicate with the crew in order to ascertain their origins. Eventually, they understood what Hopkins was asking them, and they both pointed to the sky and uttered something that sounded like the word Mars.
I hope they got there.
They're from Mars. Or they're
I
going to
dig
Mars.
how they're like, you don't need clothes up here.
Well, we're going. You don't need pants.
I kind of like the idea of like weird swingers.
That's where I was
piloting
thinking too.
ships. Yeah, like we can land wherever you are.
Like pineapples today, airships were used to signify willing to trade.
Exactly. Get aboard the party ship.
Insane. On April 16th, 1897, a story published by the Table Rock Argus claimed that a group of, quote, anonymous but reliable witnesses had seen an airship sailing overhead. The craft had many passengers, the witnesses claiming that among these passengers was a woman tied to a chair, a woman tending her,
okay,
and a man with a pistol guarding their apparent prisoner.
All right, this does not take away from the idea that it's a fuck ship.
Before the witnesses thought to contact the authorities, the airship was already gone. Next, Minneapolis papers carried an account of a physician from Rice Lake being abducted at gunpoint on the night of April 13th to care for the airship's captain, who was suffering from influenza. After a struggle, the doctor escaped by leaping from the airship into a lake 40 feet below.
dude, that's some crazy fucking shit. I mean, I understand the term yellow journalism and the time we're in, but
It's
take
just-
it on face value, like
It's just, yeah, it's like whimsical. It's like a fairy tale. It's not, it's pure nonsense. But
yes, but
sprinkled in there are stuff like that farmer who saw an explosion and a wheel fell off of a ship, and it's right here. I don't know. There was a guy
I
up
don't know
there.
what to tell you.
An account by Alexander Hamilton of Leroy, Kansas, supposedly around April 19, 1897, supposedly occurred around April 19th, 1897, and was published in Yates Center Farmers Advocate of April 23rd. Hamilton said his son and a hired hand witnessed an airship hovering over his cattle pen. Upon closer examination, the witnesses realized that a red, quote, cable from the airship had lassoed a heifer. And had also become entangled in the pen's fence.
Yeah, send it lower. Go lower. I think I can get one.
I think I can get it. Do you have another quarter? After trying unsuccessfully to free the heifer, Hamilton cut loose a portion of the fence, then, quote, stood in amazement to see the ship, cow and all, rise slowly and sail off. Some have suggested this was the earliest report of cattle mutilation. In 1977, however, UFO researcher Jerome Clark debunked this story, confirmed via interviews in Hamilton's own affidavit that the story was a successful attempt to win a, quote, Liars Club competition.
What a wild time, dude. What a wild
Truly.
club. What do you do on the weekends, good man? I'm part of a very special club.
Very secret club. There's another thing, another account from Texas on the same day that we will, I'll pass the skull after this. An account from Aurora, Texas, related to the Dallas Morning News on April 19th, 1897, reported that a couple of days before, an airship had smashed into a windmill belonging to a Judge Proctor, then crashed. The occupant was dead and mangled, but the story reported that the presumed pilot was clearly not an inhabitant of this world. Strange hieroglyphic figures were seen on the wreckage, which resembled a mixture of aluminum and silver. It must have weighed several tons. The story ended by noting that the pilot was given a, quote, Christian burial. Oh shit, we know this guy.
Yep.
We've talked about
this. Is Glenn.
Yes.
Yeah. He's Glenn's down some well that has been long forgotten.
A local treasure hunter claimed that his metal detector gave strange readings in the area, which Case claimed indicated that the pilot had been buried in some sort of a metal uniform. However, a few months later, an investigator from MUFON reported that the headstone, and whatever metallic material might have lain beneath it, was gone. So there you have it, folks. People have been seeing airships for a long, long time, nigh on 200 years. People have been seeing things in the sky, and I don't know, maybe the aliens, maybe their flight technology isn't quite as advanced as we thought. Maybe they figured it out back then and they were just zooping around in balloons trying to lasso cows.
It could be that it's so advanced that it analyzes a civilization and as a kind of like stealth thing, gives them the image that they would be able to accept.
That freaked my bean right there.
Yeah, that's I
mean, it would make sense.
A case that people believe, you know.
The chariots in the sky sort of thing.
Yeah.
The ancient alien people talk about, you know.
Yeah, like you can't even perceive it properly, and and you can only perceive things in ways that you understand. Like you don't have the proper understanding for what you are seeing, so you use a chariot of the sky or whatever.
And maybe they're so far from the fucking future that they already know how it ends up, 'cause they're us.
Ah! It was me the whole time.
It's us. We are the ones. We are the aliens. Squat 'em bottom, beat 'em bottom.
That's our alien theme song.
Hell yeah.
By coincidence, it is one of your songs as well.
Yes. I contributed the squat 'em bottom, beat 'em bottom part.
That's right. The band Pingo Rules also rules.
Accurate.
Well, gentlemen, I will take the skull.
Of fact.
I will take the skull, and I will bring us to my room in the bunker, which I've been preparing oh so sweetly, with my favorite image for this week, a map, blurry map of the center of the Earth.
Oh. Speaking of ancient aliens,
it's a beautiful land. We have the city of Shambhala. We have Cave City of Semi-Advanced Race.
Oh.
We have
to come up with a new name for that.
We have man-made tunnels under the Pyramid of Giza. Perhaps you've been hearing news of that in the news. I know where it leads. Agartha, center of the Earth. Land of advanced races. That's right, you guessed it. I'm talking about Admiral Byrd. Or maybe you didn't guess it there.
Wait. The guy from Bird's Eye? Like chips and frozen veg?
No.
Different guy.
Admiral Byrd. He was a U.S. admiral during the time of World War II, and he famously did an expedition to Antarctica, which has its own series of different conspiracies about it, such as getting Nazis out of Antarctic bases that supposedly were there, and other UFO things. That's all a lie, actually, gentlemen.
What? You can't go directly from Berlin to the middle of Antarctica?
No, he was in Antarctica. He wasn't fighting Nazis in Berlin. He was fighting them in Antarctica.
I'm just saying, is that really a lie? It's hard to believe that you can't go through the center of the Earth.
There's a sun in the middle.
There's a center sun. But that's all a lie. He was not in Antarctica, actually, because we found his secret journals.
We did?
Yes.
They all started off, Dear Secret Diary.
So I bought a book called The North Pole and Inner Earth Chronicles, The Smoky God, spelled Smoky. The Smoky God.
In my head, the guy that you bought this from disappeared immediately afterward.
No, I can still find him, I'm sure. It's Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
Oh, okay.
I got it from the man himself.
The Birdman.
One more time. The North Pole and Inner Earth Chronicles, The Smoky God, A Voyage to the Inner Earth, +, The Secret Diary of Admiral Richard E. Byrd. 2 books in one, landmark edition.
Dang.
So we are going to read from the first part of it, and that is The Smoky God, Voyage to the Inner World. And this is going to be a multi-part thing for me because we're going deep diving into it. There are a number of people who believe in this as an actual concept. You know, we talk about flat earthers and have fun with them because they're correct and they're fun people to have fun with. But we never talk about the people who believe that the earth has an inner sun.
Yeah.
And is the home to cave cities of semi-advanced races, and then lands
earthers, they're called
hot earthers because they're so sexy,
right? Because of their attractiveness.
So this is a and also I suggest if you're interested in this and like having it on your bookshelf, some fun alternative history things, but in ways that we like to have it. You know, it's fun to read people's hobby archaeology. Anyway, here is part 2 from that book, Olaf Jansen's story. My name is Olaf Jansen. I am a Norwegian, although I was born in a little seafaring Russian town of Oleberg on the eastern coast of the Gulf of Bothnia. And for those of you who were wondering, like myself, that is in the northern part of the Baltic Sea. My parents were on a fishing cruise in the Gulf of Bothnia and put into this Russian town of Oleberg at the time of my birth, being the 27th day of October in 1811. My father, Jens Jensen, was born Rodwig on the Scandinavian coast. Was born at Rodwig at the Scandinavian coast. This is a whole bunch of Beowulf style genealogies. Let me skip a little bit. Sorry, everyone.
That's okay.
I was in my 19th year when we started on what proved to be our last trip as fishermen, and which resulted in the strange story that shall be given to the world. We're the world, gentlemen. Just like the song goes.
We've done it. We are the world.
Did I just make up a song?
We are the ones who take another bite of your cattle.
This is the one I'm thinking of for sure.
There's a moon above that turns us into lycanthropes.
So I dare not allow the facts as I know them to be published while I am living, for fear of further humiliation, confinement, and suffering. First of all, I was put in irons by the captain of the whaling vessel that rescued me, for no other reason than I told the truth about the marvelous discoveries made by my father and by myself.
All right, but I bet there was another reason.
I mean, you go into the center of the earth as described behind us here. And I would be shouting and screaming about some of the things I saw. I mean, I would be very excited to say the least. To be fair, shackling, maybe not so much. I would have to do something else. Like maybe excitedly assault one of the other sailors with my story.
Sure.
So point for you, Nate. There had to be something else here. Plus, the way it's worded definitely makes it seem like I did nothing wrong. All I did was spit in their face as they told me my lie story was a lie.
Yeah.
Perhaps punching. That would send into the shackles. Anyway, he's in the shackles for telling the story in his words. After 4 years and 8 months absence, I reached Stockholm, only to find my mother had died the previous year and the property left by my parents in the possession of my mother's people.
Your mother's people, huh?
Is that like an insanely rude way to talk about the Sami?
It might be.
Like, it might be at this time.
Interesting.
But it was once. I mean, it could still be at this time as well. All might have been well. I had erased from my memory the story of our adventure and of my father's terrible death. This is very Lovecraftian, I might add.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, one day I told my story in detail to my uncle, Gustav Osterland, and a man of considerable property, and urged him to fit out an expedition for me to make another voyage to this strange land. At first, I thought he favored my project. He seemed interested and invited me to go before certain officials and explain to them, as I had to him, the story of our travels and discoveries. Imagine my disappointment and horror when, upon conclusion of my narrative, certain papers were signed by my uncle, and without warning, I found myself arrested and hurried away to dismal and thermal confinement in a madhouse.
Wow.
Right. Again, there might have been something else going on.
I mean, for sure, I agree with you, Nate. But once again, you see the splendors and try to describe things. You would sound mad going, like there's a sun in the center of the earth and they have beautiful vegetation. And I was in the city of Shambhala and all of them were 80 years old before they mated. And 800 years old before they married. I forgot what those numbers were earlier.
Well, I can't detract from that.
Yeah, no, that's solid evidence. How dare you put me in a madhouse? Anyway, people, as you understand, he is taken with with all the salt, and no one is buying anything. In fact, they are imprisoning him for 28 years. He never ceases to assert his sanity and constantly protest his confinement. On the 17th of October, 1862, he was released. Everyone he knows is dead, and all of his friends strangers. It's very Scandinavian, all of this. Let's go into this story that causes him to, I guess, suffer.
Sure.
Accused of madness. I remember well that we left Stockholm, this is him and his father, in our fishing sloop on the 3rd day of April in 1829. We sailed to the southward, leaving Gothland to the left and Åland Island to the right. For you Norwegian heads out there, or I guess Baltic heads out there.
Friggin' Norwegians.
Norwegia, Prussian, Finnish heads out there. A few days later, we succeeded in doubling Sandhumor Point. I don't know what that means. You sailor heads in the chat, let us know. And we met our way through the sound which separates Denmark from the Scandinavian coast. In due time, we put in at the town of Christiansand, where we rested 2 days and then started around Scandinavian coast to the westward, bound for the Lofoten Islands. Everyone's in high spirit for the first few days. They had favoring wind, but they saw many more icebergs weirdly out of nowhere. They were heading south and more icebergs appeared.
Well,
the author likens them to grim sentinels greeting them as they approached a fretful sea.
Okay. Getting closer.
They go farther in to where they now realize that they are in unforeseen lands. And I am going to
unmapped or
unmapped. All of this is a telling of an unforgiving land that they were not ready to enter. A very Bermuda Triangle
right
area. And him and his father barely escape all sorts of near misses of glaciers coming out of fogs.
Mm-hmm.
Their compass had been fastened with long screws to a crossbeam. Should have been very accurate, but it was spinning around and around.
Spooky.
All right, so they were outside of space and time.
They're in some weird spots where, how does the magnetic field work in the hollow Earth? It's an orientation it shouldn't, and that's where we're getting. I think that they entered the inner Earth at that moment, where the icebergs and the fog were thick and wild. Their compass starts going. The father says, "Be courageous, my son. Odin is the god of the waters, the companion of the brave, and he is with us. Fear not." They continue going down this terrible, nerve-wracking ordeal with its nameless horrors of suspense and agony and fear indescribable continued for more than 3 hours of very intense sailing. I watched my father closely, determined to remain silent until he spoke. Presently, he untied the rope from his waist and, without a word, began working the pumps, which fortunately were not damaged, relieving the sloop of the water that had slipped in the madness of the storm, like they were taken in water. The sun is beating down. They're finally in some calm. Our investigation, we found less than 1/3 of our provisions remaining. To our utter dismay, we discovered that our water casks have been swept overboard. They're going to die, gentlemen. 2 of our water casks were in the main hold, but both were empty. We had a fair supply of food, but no fresh water. I realized at once the awfulness of our position. Presently, I was seized with a coming thirst. "It is indeed bad," remarked my father. "However, let us dry our bedraggled clothing, for we are soaked to the skin. Trust to the god Odin, my son. Do not give up hope." And now, that's where I'm going to kind of end it. This is a longer little piece from me, a little bit more fictional. We're reading from a book. But part 3 is now they are beyond the north wind. They are entered the land.
Agartha, yeah.
Of Agartha. And this is all prefacing to Admiral Byrd's description, his secret diary, his flight into the land beyond the North Pole. This is case number 1, Olaf Jansen's story. And next time, it will be better organized and categorized because I'm going to read it and there'll be less editing marks. You guys all see at our YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube. And Nate, I'm going to pass the skull to you so we can enter your part of the bunker, which I hear is decorated with an old man.
Yeah, I shall be talking about an old man. A dead man, in fact.
Good.
Several, perhaps. So I wanted to do a little, just FYI. Here's someone you should know about. Joseph Nash McDowell. One of St. Louis's, or St. Louis, depending on how you want to speak.
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
St. Louis.
One of the great legends from a great city. Dr. Joseph Nash McDowell was born in Lexington, Kentucky in 1805, receiving a medical degree from, you're gonna like this, Transylvania University.
Where you have to have white hair by the age of 15 to even be accepted.
Well, he's 20 when he gets this. So, I mean, I don't know how long it takes in the late, or early rather, 1800s to become a doctor, but
I think it was significantly shorter. Like if you passed your exam, knew enough about the body, it was like a 4-year fast track, maybe even 2-year.
Yeah, he's getting it pretty quick.
From the Dr. Kellogg Department of Transylvania University.
Prior to moving to St. Louis in 1839 with the intention of founding his own medical school, McDowell served as an anatomy professor at the Jefferson Medical College in Philadelphia.
He was my body man.
He was a body man, which will become a huge part of the things that he does.
In a time, I know this time, this is that Frankenstein time. Is it illegal to do autopsies?
Technically, yes.
But I'm excited for this story.
He also worked in Ohio, in Cincinnati, as at some part of the medical department of whatever, I guess, the Cincinnati Hospital. He threw in with St. Louis with a reputation, according to this article. He was a brilliant anatomist, an enthusiastic teacher, and an entertaining public speaker. According to his students, he was a very boisterous, opinionated, and feisty. He was also notorious for having a persistent, fiery temper. He was the kind of person who made enemies easily, and he would regularly ridicule his adversaries in open letters he published in newspapers.
He's like, I could do this face to face, or I could fucking write a scathing article.
Yeah, hilarious. He's dropping tweets basically every day, being like, if you want to meet me at the hospital, we can throw up. As recounted in James Wilson's biography of McDowell that was published in the Registry of Kentucky Historical Society, and just because they're giving it, I'll give it to you. Volume 68, Issue 4, October 1970, pages 341 through 369.
Okay, well, we can look it up.
Yep. It's crazy to me that there are any more than 100 pages of anything about the history of Kentucky.
It's a wild place. Shit, where was it? Lexington, Kentucky, man, has in their Capitol building have a museum, and half of it's a history museum.
Oh, sure.
And half of it is the white history, and half of it's the black history. And me and Sam walked through this fucking place just in utter confusion.
It's very Kentucky.
It's one of the most Kentucky things ever. And not like it was a good museum. It was just segregated. Like, it had the facts and only the facts. This wasn't like whitewash history, but it was segregated.
But they weren't necessarily recognizing 1963 as a year.
No, both sides weren't.
Yeah, that is it's wild.
Anyway, Kentucky's wild. The history there, learn about it.
Anyway, apparently our man McDowell stirred up trouble in St. Louis shortly after his arrival when he learned that St. Louis University was planning to begin their own medical school, which bugs him up because at the time, he's the only guy running a medical school, even though, is he a doctor? Maybe.
It does seem like one of those things to where like a real doctor would be all like, oh, thank goodness there's help. Yeah, we can help these people. And then he's all like, no, I'm the only doctor in town. I tell them when their humors are boiling.
So, the thing goes on to say, McDowell was jealous and paranoid in nature, and he feared the formation of another medical school would be detrimental to his own grand plans. He delivered numerous inflammatory public speeches against Catholics and the Jesuits at St. Louis University in particular. So it was still a good time to just be mad about various religions.
Just be upset about Catholicism.
Yeah.
Still is, really.
Still is. Who doesn't like the Catholics?
Everyone raises their hand, including the new Pope.
We're definitely going to hate non-whites, but how many whites can we hate?
The answer may shock you.
McDowell joined the faculty of Kemper College in 1840, an Episcopalian school that had opened in St. Louis in 1837, just 3 years before his tenure began, which is where he started to create his own medical curriculum. This college, of course, went bankrupt 5 years after he started.
What? No!
Who says? Couldn't be.
Couldn't have.
Without any interruption to course instruction, because nobody was saying no, because there wasn't technically anything nearby that where the like legit doctors could be like, I think what you're doing is wrong.
Yes.
He could realign his medical school with the University of Missouri in 1845, just months after Kemper College went bankrupt. Shortly thereafter, and largely at his own financial expense, McDowell began constructing a massive new building in downtown St. Louis to house, of course, his very own medical school.
I like it. Get it done the American way. Someone calls you not a doctor, you open your own medical school.
Yeah, who's
That's
not a
right.
doctor now?
With blackjack and hookers.
I'm a doctor
McDowell.
of blackjack.
McDowell's new building was utilized by University of Missouri medical students beginning in 1850. However, he formally severed ties with the university in 1857 to privatize his medical school under the new name Missouri Medical College. This also included one of the largest anatomical museums in the country and one of the largest museums of natural history, which was curated by McDowell.
It sounds like he might not be a good curator of historical facts.
Seems like he might be a jerk. One of those jerks.
He may just be. Also, if you were wondering when they say anatomical museum, is that just bodies of people?
Yeah, that's
what I think. But that's still cool. Yes. That is literally the body life exhibit at
needs to happen. Probably shouldn't be taking them out of a graveyard.
Then where do I get my bodies? That's the body store. I go to the graveyard.
The body shop.
Here's an also fun thing about it. The new medical school also featured a massive collection of Revolutionary War era weapons.
Ooh.
In an Estelle Broadman article titled "The Great Eccentric," the arsenal included 1,400 muskets and 4 cannons he purchased for an expedition he had been organizing since he was a teenager, because it turns out McDowell had, as a youth, planned to lead a private army to the Pacific coast of seized land in Northern California.
Yes, my man.
Building an airship.
Yeah. He's so close. Despite years of hoarding gunpowder and enlisting students to help, his arsenal regularly was maintained, so he could one day set out on his journey to California. So
he's offering extra credit to students to help Professor McDowell, prepare for the revolution.
It was absolutely easy in his class to either find a body and hang it up, or maybe polish a cannon and help him drive west. Which he, of course, never did.
I like the idea that he is just gonna leave them there like mid-semester. They're just a bunch of students who helped him out expecting extra credit, and then the new professor comes in and he's like, I'm not honoring this credit. Just wasting their time and money.
Sure.
Well,
no, it was a lie. I was lying, don't you know? And the money you were going to pay us, also lie money.
Also not real.
Fake money from a lie.
Here's a fun quote from one of his students, W.B. Outen. We students looked up upon Dr. McDowell as a dangerous and evil man. And we had been brought to believe that the doctor was in league in some manner with his, and this is all caps, most satanic majesty.
Satanic majesty.
And if close search would be made about his premises, there could have been found a direct passageway between Dr. McDowell and the nether regions of Hades.
Yes, wow. My friends.
Okay.
So, good prof.
Good prof. Good, not crazy, not scary scientist.
He's a scientist.
He's one of those mad scientists, but more like angry.
So he was, of course, a widely rumored resurrectionist.
Sure.
AKA a gravedigger.
Yeah, a Frankenstone.
Yeah. He was definitely pulling out corpses, which a lot of colleges had going on.
No
at the
shame.
time,
You
so
needed to study the body. You couldn't dig up graves for bodies, but you still had to have bodies to teach the students for proper health.
Yeah.
I agree on.
It's not really a bad thing necessarily. It's just a weird thing.
Yes.
But he does kind of do a real weird, bordering on bad thing. So his daughter dies.
Okay.
It's a bad time. She gets sick. That's what it is in the 1800s.
Yeah, you have a cold, you're going to die.
Of people.
Yeah.
So instead of burying her, he figures she will come back to life if I put her in the exact correct sort of capsule.
Ugh. Okay.
So he builds her a weird little tomb, fills it with alcohol.
Sure, that's the substance which brings us back.
Yeah, because he thinks that's going to keep the body not fucked up. And then he puts it in a cave.
Because, like mushrooms, the body will grow.
Yeah, because weird things happen in caves.
They do.
That is definitely part of it. Now, this cave, it's been removed now, but up until the 1970s, you could visit this thing.
Shoo! They removed this, huh?
Yeah.
This Mecca, this pilgrimage site to our people.
After it was found out by a lot of people that in fact people were opening up this capsule to fuck around with the body that was left inside, the federal government stepped in and made the cave a site that you can't commit weird crimes on.
Oh yeah, and law. They called it the Creeps Law.
This is what I'm talking about, gentlemen. Big government telling me what I can and can't do to the weird corpses in my state.
Now, every one of y'all knows that this country was built on one founding principle. Anything in a cave is off the books. God can't see you if you're in a cave, not a book. Sorry, I beefed the riff.
Editing will save it.
You're still correct.
God can't see you if you're in a cave, and that's what this country's all about. God's always trying to catch us. He's like Elmer Fudd, and we're like a sneaky little rabbit. Riff complete.
Anyway, he did assume that at some point his daughter would come back to life, and he really believed that. This man would have run a cult if perhaps all of his students weren't actually interested in learning about things.
They signed up for a legitimate medical school.
Yeah.
And he gave them revolution, or not really revolution, but forced annexation. Yeah, and resurrection. Which that ain't bad either. Can you imagine telling that story to your, children's children? They'll be like, Papa, tell us the time that you were at school with a resurrectionist.
Yeah.
Well, here's a fun thing.
The face he's pulling in this picture is very like, yeah, what? I did it.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
Oh, 100%. He does not give a shit.
The photographer asked him to smile, and he gave that face.
He said no. Continue with the tintype, please.
This is just straight from the article. His connection to alleged nefarious activities in the city's cemeteries was not a well-kept secret. His school was regularly searched by family members who had discovered a loved one's tomb was empty. So not only was he taking things, but apparently at some point, people were so worried about him taking these bodies that they were like, let's dig this shit up and make sure.
I mean, also, this is what you do. You visit the tomb. Not like today where you spread the ashes.
And this is also a fun one. On occasion, McDowell would personally give a tour of his school to these families to pacify their suspicions that he had, in fact, stolen their relatives' bodies for dissection.
Good lord.
He sounds like a monster.
A true ghoul.
Yeah.
A true ghoul.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you got to be born like that, right? It's not like one day you're like...
You have to... Yeah, no. There's got to be something that clicks in your head if you see a body...
Yeah.
And it works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't Maybelline, baby. This is... She's born with it.
I mean, maybe he got hit on the head with a brick or something, and it turned him into a horrible, perverted ghoul.
Mark Twain wrote a short story about this guy.
Sure.
Of course he did.
Changed his name just slightly. It turned out that Mark Twain was, as a young man, he had gone into that cave, so he knew the story from a first-person perspective.
Crazy.
Wow.
Several additional family members of McDowell's were put in copper tubes and put in a cave. As Luke Ritter recounts in his piece titled Anatomy, Grave Robbing, and Spiritualism in Antebellum St. Louis, McDowell felt normal burial customs smothered the soul after one's demise. Upon the death of his first wife, Amanda Drake McDowell, an alcohol-filled copper container was created to house her body, which was laid to rest inside one of the Cahokia Indian mounds in Illinois. With the aid of a rudimentary telescope, McDowell could view her burial mound across the Mississippi River from the top of his medical school.
Wow.
So he's been watching for zombies that he's been trying to create for his entire fucking career.
One day they'll come.
It's like one of those every lie is an admission kind of thing, where he's like, if I'm out here building zombies, then surely the other mad scientists are.
This is also a little bit funny. He was mentioned in 2012 in the film Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Nice. Cool.
As a blood supplier.
Yeah, of course he was.
He definitely made money selling to vampires, and they would provide him bodies. It was definitely a trade situation.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's legitimately a caveman. Like, whatever came outside in the offshoot of humanity that exists by using us as cattle, he's part of it.
Wow. And I just can't get over the look. It's he looks like one of those guys who's like, you're like a vampire?
Yeah. It sounds like you're a ghoul, a vampire.
Yeah, nothing stops us, man.
What's wrong with that? Where am I wrong? You know? Where he's like one of those guys who it's like he didn't have a personality, so he did this to become like arguing about it as his personality.
Yeah,
Very much so.
I'm going to put my daughter inside of a tube in a cave.
Yeah. So what?
So what are you doing with yours?
She's coming back.
Do that? Don't you like her?
Yeah. Don't you love your daughter?
Oh.
That is kind of a thing, actually.
Yeah. Wow. Well, anything else we need to know about this abject?
No, there definitely isn't.
Well, that does it for another episode of Werewolf Radar, dear listener. We had fun here today. I drank water. I ate a meat tube. We learned of dirigibles and horrible men and heated, gooey Earth centers. We were forced apart. We came together, and then we succeeded. Thank you for checking out our YouTube channel. Thank you for checking out werewolfradar.com. Check us out on all the socials. Check us out on the Twitch. Check us out on Patreon if you want an extra episode every week. Biatch!
Grave nuggets.
That was only for one of you. You know who you are. Grave nuggets. Slurp them up. That's what they say. Until next time, thank you guys so much for listening. Please join us in our sign-off line for all listeners on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Punch the sky.
Spaceman Joe. Should have changed it back to the normal one.